Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. I'm Sarah, and this is part of our Cultivating a Biblical Home series. So, things that I wish I knew when we first started as a couple, or things that I'm hoping to pass on to you since God has given us almost 22 years of marriage to try to figure these things out. And I still don't have it all figured out. But one of the most important things that you can give your kids is a good marriage. And so, as I would encourage you on this journey of trying to cultivate a biblical home, is work on your marriage. I know lots of people in different stages of life, and I have never met a couple who couldn't improve their marriage. I know couples with some really, really good marriages, and I think that they would still tell you that they have times where they disagree on something, or where they don't see eye to eye, or where they might not communicate very well. Maybe they talked harshly to a spouse. I think that we can all continue to improve on all of the relationships in our life. But our most important one, besides God, is our marriage, because we are meant in the Bible to be with this one person that we've married for the rest of our lives. And so while it can get hard in the midst of having kids and all of that, our husband still should be our number one priority, because after the kids grow up and they move out, God willing, Lord willing, our husband is still going to be there, and we are going to have that relationship for years and years to come, hopefully. And so how can you prioritize marriage even in the midst of busyness? So one way is to make sure that you are leaving time for your spouse, because I know in the midst of having all of these children, it can be really hard when your husband comes home from work and you are just so tired and it's been such a long day. But what can you do to prepare your home so that when your husband comes home, it's a quiet respite for him? And I'm not saying that because I think, I know a lot of people who are like, oh, that sounds so old-fashioned. The idea is also it's a quiet respite for me. If I get my work done during the day, and for those who don't know, my husband is home full-time right now because of a disability and he can't be at work, but he used to work full-time. So we had multiple little children, and this is what I did when he was working. So if my husband is gone for the day, I try to get the chores done that I can while he's gone. So can I have the dishes from the day done before he gets home? Maybe that's even prepping supper at 4 so I can get all those supper prep dishes done, and then dinner's just cooking when he gets home. Is there a way that I can make sure that the house is clean before he gets home? Is there a way that I can make sure that the grocery shopping got done while he was gone? And I know for each family, this is going to look a little different. I know some people who have trouble getting out of the house with all the kids during the day. And so grocery shopping might be something that needs to be done in the evening, or maybe you do a pickup order. I know that this isn't going to look the same every day, because right now I have a baby who's 8 months old, and he's been teething. And the last couple nights he slept okay, but the couple nights before that, he did not. And on those days, had my husband not been home, so I was doing just the regular day by myself, the house might not have been clean by the time he came home. And there are days that just has to happen. If you have kids with a stomach bug, you shouldn't feel that you need to have your house totally spick and span by the time your husband comes home, because the most important thing in that moment is to be there for your kids and helping them when they're sick. But I'm talking on a regular day with a regular schedule going on in your home. Is there a way that you can make the hours that you have with your husband on a work day to be more enjoyable? We have also had times where Mark worked a morning shift and went in the afternoon. So in those seasons, we had a really relaxed, calm morning, and then we did our chores in the afternoon once Mark left. And of course, there's things that have to be done while husband's home. Like when he was going home and when he was going to work in the afternoon, so he's home until 1 o'clock, I still had to make breakfast and lunch. There were still dishes that had to be done at some point. Maybe you can keep those breakfast dishes and lunch dishes and just do them after he leaves. But we've gone through seasons of life where we've only had enough dishes for one meal. And so I had to wash breakfast dishes so we could eat lunch. I'm not saying there would be absolutely no chores, but how can you give that time? So maybe that is making sure that you have a pickup time before daddy comes home. That's what we always did, was if Mark was coming home at 5, around 4, we would stop what we were doing and we would clean up. So let's say we were all sitting and coloring. It would turn to 4 o'clock. I'd say, okay, we're gonna leave the coloring stuff right here on the table. We can come back to this, but let's go make sure the rest of the house is nice and spick and span. And so we'd go work for 15 minutes maybe, and then we'd come back and finish the thing we were on. And then when he walked through the door, I could feel good that the rest of the house is clean and this is working well. The other thing is, it can be hard as a young mom, well, a mom with young kids, not necessarily a young mom, a mom with young kids, to have energy to be with your husband in the evening, or maybe it's the morning for you, whatever, but to actually have time to focus on your husband. And maybe that's for time to be intimate. Maybe that's for time just to be able to sit and talk. But is there a way during the day that you can give yourself more rest, or a time to just defrazzle your brain so that you have that time when your husband comes home? Maybe that is a quiet time during the day. If you have really young kids, maybe they're sorry. If you have really young kids, maybe that is nap time. So they're napping, you lay down for a little while. If you have slightly older kids, maybe that is having them all do a quiet time where they pick quiet activities. Maybe it's reading books, playing with Play-Doh, doing a puzzle, doing something where they're each quiet so they're not arguing with each other. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so sorry, someone pulled down the driveway. So making sure that you have time where you have like defrazzled yourself, giving yourself time during the day where you feel just kind of that brain rest of having a lot of kids. Remember, I'm saying that this may not be an everyday thing. Maybe on the day that you have errands to do and you had doctor's appointments and everything, your husband gets home and you're like, I am just stressed today. And the thing is, as a couple, we're supposed to be able to help each other. Yes, the wife is the helper, but in the idea of like, we've had a super stressful day, we're supposed to be able to help each other get through the day. But on a normal basis, can you give yourself time to decompress during the day? Also, open lines of communication. I know a lot of couples who don't work on communication. They are just okay, kind of living in the same house as each other, but not trying to fix the marriage, better the marriage, whatever you want to say, making the marriage better. We have to remember that our marriage is something that is instituted by God, established by God, and that we are to be married to this person for the rest of our lives. But also the example that we are giving our children through our marriage of what they are looking for in a godly spouse. And I would hate for one of my children to leave the house thinking, I really wish that I had a godly mother. I really wish that I had a mother who respected my father. Every day, it's not just the words that I say, but it is how I act towards my husband that my children are seeing. And that is teaching my girls how they should speak and act to their future husbands. And it's teaching my sons how their wife should treat them or act towards them. And that's important. But also, those girls are going to be looking for a guy, and those boys are going to be looking for a girl. And I want to be an example, both word and deed, of what they should be looking for in that future spouse. I am not perfect. Do not take this video as saying I'm perfect. But what I am saying is I need to really think that every little thing that I do towards my husband is helping them understand what marriage looks like, or what they don't want their marriage to look like. And I hope that I'm a godly example to them. If I am doing things that is encouraging my children in bad behavior, in unbiblical ways of talking to my husband, I should talk to them and say, I am sorry that you saw that, how I treated daddy or how I talked about daddy. I should not have done that. And would you please forgive me? Because this is the way I should have dealt with the situation. But also towards your husband, there's that verse about the wife does him good and not evil all the days of his life. Am I speaking highly of my husband, both to him, to my children, to people outside of the house? Or am I always talking negatively about him? Am I all about bashing my husband? Am I all about making a picture in other people's minds that my husband is a bad guy? I am to be doing him good. I am to be building him up. It talks about like the men sitting in the city gates and that they're known in the city gates. Is my husband known from the things that I do and say in the city gates as a good guy or a bad guy? Because what you hear about people has a lot of sway on how you feel about that person. Marriage is supposed to be a picture of Christ and his bride, the church. Am I living up to that picture of the bride, the church? I am supposed to be submitting to my husband as unto the Lord. So if my husband asks me to go do something sinful, I can't do that. But can I respect my husband even for just the position of being a husband? Maybe he's doing something that's not respectable. But like, we have a president of the United States. Right now it's Trump. Before it was Biden. Both of those situations, I should respect his role as president, even if I don't necessarily feel he is doing the best job at it. He is still the person God has put in charge. And within our house, I am married to Mark because that is the person who God has chosen. Like, we are together. I can't just be like, oh, maybe this isn't the right one and I can divorce. No, we are now together. This is what we need to do. And I am not saying this because I think in any way Mark is bad. I'm saying this because I think other people treat their husband like this. We are now in a position where we are to love and respect that person that God has put in our marriage. And maybe he's not living up to his whole end of the bargain. Our husband, remember, is supposed to be the picture of Christ. That is a tough job. Like, picture of the bride is the church. And the church is made up of people. And we as people, you can see all through the Bible, we fail sometimes. If I was supposed to stand in that place of Christ in front of my family, that would be a really big task. And so I think that our husbands have a lot that they have on their shoulders. They are meant to protect us. They are meant to provide for us. They are meant to be our prophet and priest who are supposed to come to us sharing God's word, and then they're supposed to go kind of as a mediator between their family and God. And yes, as Christians, I can go directly to God. I'm not saying that. But as a husband's role, he is the head of the family. And he has super, super big weight on his shoulders in that. Am I respecting him for that weight that he has? Am I helping him to be a better person? Or am I making it hard because of the words I'm saying about him, the things that I'm doing? Am I causing his job to be harder because I am living in some type of sin that I don't want to repent of? And yes, again, that is between me and God, but our husband is our closest friend and closest Christian brother, if your husband is a Christian. If your husband is not a Christian, you are still supposed to be respectful of him and to win your husband without a word. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean ever sharing the gospel with him, but through your actions and your attitude towards him and your want to serve and love your husband, even if he's not being the perfect example. A lot of husbands see the love of their wife and see Christ's love through that. So, this is not to say you have to be the perfect wife, and if your husband sins, then you obviously did something wrong and you caused him to sin. Your husband's sin is totally his own sin. And so I do not want anyone to think that that is what I'm saying. And I do not feel in any way that a wife should be abused and live in that situation. If you're part of a church, talk to church leadership. And if it's like physical abuse, something that the cops should be involved in, that is that situation too. What I'm saying is, in the situation of a husband and wife who don't agree with each other, maybe he said something that hurt your feelings, all of that stuff. What are ways that you can build up your marriage? What are ways you can work on your marriage? What are ways that you can be, a crown for your husband type thing? What are ways, I don't know. I hope that this message is encouraging, because I feel like I talk to so many women who either want to give up on their marriages, like totally, I'm just going to walk away from my marriage, or say, this is just what it is and it's never going to get any better. And as Christians, as the wife in the church, in this, Christ in the church, we're always supposed to be moving towards him, becoming more Christ-like, doing more what Christ would want us to do. Hi, I had someone wake up behind the camera. Doing more what Christ would want us to do. We're not supposed to walk away from it. Totally walk away from it. And we're not supposed to just be stagnant in our thought of like, okay, yeah, this is as good as it gets, because we will one day see Christ face to face, and we will truly understand how glorious and awesome he is. So we need to be continuing to work on marriage, because marriage is supposed to be a sacred, blessed thing from God. And if you're just like, yeah, this is as good as it gets, we're not showing our children what a blessing marriage truly is and what marriage should truly look like. So I hope this was an encouragement. Please leave comments on how you work to, maybe give that time to your husband that he needs. How do you have open lines of communication? Maybe you've been in a marriage that wasn't good, and something that you guys worked on together, or just you as the wife worked on, was able to help build that marriage. Let's encourage each other in being able to build up our husbands and being available for them. So we will see you guys next time on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. Bye.